Congressman Adam Schiff of California is joining us. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
It's good to be with you, Wolf.
You've called this an assault on democracy. How will your investigation in the House Intelligence Committee be impacted by this dismissal?
Well, I think it's impacted in a couple ways. It further underscores the importance for us to be all speed ahead, that we do a thorough job, because the FBI investigation is going to be severely impacted by this. I'm sure that the line agents that are working the investigation will continue that work, but any major decisions now will be held in abeyance, I'm sure, until there is a new FBI director. But I also think we have an additional issue added to our plate, and that is looking into the circumstances surrounding this firing. Did Director Comey ask for more resources? Did he feel that the investigation didn't have the support it needed to fully chase down the leads it was pursuing? If that's the case, we need to make sure that the Bureau does get that resource, and that whoever leads this investigation is truly independent and serious about that very important work.
Do you believe that there's a real chance that a special prosecutor could be appointed, or is protesting the only thing you and other Democrats, for example, who are concerned, can do?
No, I think there's a real chance that this could force the appointment of a special prosecutor. You have to, I think, step into the shoes of Rod Rosenstein right now. He realizes he must how this looks to the country. No one finds the explanation for Comey's firing credible. And yes, Democrats had a lot of concern about how Comey handled the Clinton investigation, but nobody believes that's why this president let him go. And in fact, of course, as you pointed out, this is a president who applauded Comey's injection of the Clinton investigation into the last days of the campaign. But none of us believe that's what's going on here. When the president says that Comey wasn't doing a good job, he's talking about his view of the Russia investigation, something he's calling a fake. When he speaks about it in the present tense, he's obviously not talking about the director's handling of the Clinton investigation. So doesn't pass the smell test. I think there'll be enormous pressure on the Deputy Attorney General to do the right thing and bring in someone independent to oversee this investigation.
You think any Republicans will support that?
You know, I hope so. We've been waiting now for over 100 long days for the Republicans who respect the Constitution, understand the system of checks and balances, to find their backbones and start to stand up and not just occasionally speak out, but really take a principled position. And the principled position here is to demand some independence. And I hope that's what they do.
What if they don't, Congressman? What if they don't come around?
Well, you know, if they don't come around, then the only remedy the American people have is to change who's running the Congress, which they'll have the opportunity to do in the midterms. But we don't control either House or Senate. We're not in a position to pass a bill establishing independent counsel without GOP help, or an independent commission for that matter. So right now, people can continue to speak out and to protest and call their representatives, show up at town halls. And I'm confident, if the pressure is great enough, that, yes, even this administration may be forced to do the right thing.
As the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, will you call on James Comey to testify before your committee? And if you do, should that hearing be public?
We just had the director in, I think, less than a week ago. I'm hoping that we can get him back in. Perhaps we can have him come in at the same time as the Senate Intelligence Committee, because we do need to ask the former director about the status, again, of the investigation, how he feels his firing will impact that, whether there was a call for additional resources. We need to make sure that the FBI has everything they need. The reality is, Wolf, as important as these intelligence investigations are in the House and Senate, the FBI has a reach that we don't have, with agents all around the world. And so they are doing some very important work, and obviously, to the degree that there emerges a proof of collusion, it would be the Bureau to develop that evidence and provide it to the Department of Justice. So they're an indispensable partner here, and we need to make sure they're doing their job as we're doing ours.
Congressman, have you spoken to any White House officials about the president's decision to fire Comey?
I have not. It certainly seems like a lot of the White House was kept in the dark about this. And I have to say, you know, I found it embarrassing to watch the vice president have to go out and defend this decision, and to say that this was made because the president felt that the safety of the American people required it. Nobody is going to buy that, and nor should they. And for Sarah Huckabee to go out there, I guess it's telling when they've got to put Sarah Huckabee out there and Kellyanne Conway out there. But for her to say that Comey was guilty of some atrocity, as if he's in the category of Bashar al-Assad, you know, it's embarrassing, but it's a reflection, I think, of the shifting rationales of the administration and their desperate attempt after the fact to justify what appears increasingly unjustifiable.
When you heard the White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders say it's time to move on from this entire Russia investigation, she said it's gone on way too long. What's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is, okay, now here we see the real rationale for Director Comey's firing, and that is the president's view of the Russia investigation and the whole Russia story is that it's a fake. Now, of course, whenever the president uses that word, it ought to set off alarm bells for the American people. It ought to be a signal, hey, look here. But nonetheless, that's the president's position. And so if you have a director who's pursuing this, let alone a director that's asking for more resources, and now you have Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying that this investigation has gone on too long, it really tells you what I think the hidden motivation here is, and it's not hidden very well.
You've also suggested, Congressman, that the White House, in your words, is brazenly interfering in a criminal matter. Do you see this as an abuse of power?
I do see it as an abuse of power. You have a president with a clear conflict of interest here. His associates are being investigated in terms of any possible collusion with the Russians. And the president in his letter can say as many times as he wants that he was assured by Director Comey that he's not the subject of an investigation. The reality is his team is the subject of an investigation. None of us know where that investigation is going to lead. And that's a very apparent conflict of interest for the president. And what's more, it's a conflict of interest for the Attorney General, who was supposed to have recused himself from making decisions on this, but ends up far from recusing himself, in fact, advocating the firing of the person who's the top cop on the Russia investigation. That, I think, is equally disturbing here. Apparently, the Attorney General's recusal doesn't mean very much.